Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Pup. We are back for some draft notes for the LPDL. It's been a hot minute, got busy with school, but we're actually done now. Had my last classes today, so we are back with some draft notes for the quarterfinals. We have some really fun matchups in here. If you guys haven't been keeping up with the LPDL through my channel and the other coaches' channels, make sure you guys go watch some videos, go see how the season ended. I am going to spoil how everyone did. We're going to talk about, all the teams in the playoffs when we get to them. But first off, we're going to start off with our #1 overall seed, who is Tom with the Central Coast Clawitsers. I really did not believe in this team. I don't think a lot of other people did either. And still looking at the team, I don't think it's the strongest. But Tom went 7-1. He, in the last 2 weeks, beat the #2 and #3 seeds. So very dominant performance from him this whole entire season. I am really excited to see what they do with in the playoffs here. And then on the other side, we have the #6 seed Lux. Tom chose this randomly to face against the 4-4 +5 Vancouver Valiant. Lux is a great little cup battler, known a little bit for doing other leagues. They joined halfway through last season and had a crazy run to end it off as a replacement coach for us. They started off 4-0 this season and dropped the final 4 games. Obviously, they had a couple of tough ones against #3 seed Jamal in this last 8th week. So, I mean, they've had some rough opponents, but also, a 0-4 streak is pretty tough. But looking at these teams, they're going to have a really good matchup. Let's look at Tom's side first. You have the Misdreavus, which I think is really solid in this matchup. It has 19 speed, where everything on Lux's team caps out at 18 with the Dodrio or the Doduo over there. So Missy being faster than everything is really nice. It's very solid in general. It cannot hold an Eviolite because it is their Uber pick, but it is still very solid. I can see something like Shadow Ball, Draining Kiss, a Will-O-Wisp maybe. Energy Ball is also pretty solid if they want to run it. T-Bolt, try to hit the Tentacool, anything like that. I don't think it's like amazing in this game because there are a lot of resists on Lux's side. They can eat the hits decently well. I think Sandile is really tough for you to deal with. You have to predict it with Energy Ball or something like that, but Sandile loves to run like a Choice Scarf set. I think it does that actually pretty solidly in this game as well. So you're always going to have to be on the lookout for that Pokemon. And stuff like Tentacool that it can switch in. It's naturally especially bulky, so you have to worry about that. They also have offensive switch-ins. Like I said, the Sandile, but I think the Houndour before Terra can also switch in pretty decently to anything that it, wants to use. I can see Misdreavus being used in a bunch of different ways, but not like the star of the team. I also think, going down the list, I think that the Grimer is pretty solid, making sure that you're not weak to basically anything on their squad. If they have a Sandile that's forced to Choice Lock itself into a dark move, you have a nice resist for that. They can click Drain Punch back into it, or just be really annoying. It has a lot of different options like Poison Touch with like Poison Jab. Get the poisons all over Lux's team. It's actually pretty hard to deal with that. Also just knock off versus everything. So getting rid of those important Choice Scarves, getting rid of Eviolites, that stuff is really important. I think Grimer's gonna be great in this game. I also think that Corphish is an unsung hero of this game. It looks really strong with adaptability boosted Aqua Jets. I think they're gonna be really nice. It kind of forces Lux out of like a Terra Fire or any other Terra that would be weak to water on your Houndour, which, maybe you would like to see something like that. I think Fire would be solid in this game without the threat of the adaptability Aqua Jet. It's also really nice for cleaning up the Sandile if they are Choice Scarf like we do expect. But also, Dragon Dance sweeping can be really strong. You do have the opportunity to get up 1, potentially 2 Dragon Dances in this game, depending on what you're facing up against. If it's going to be something like the Beldum that can't really do too much versus you, potential whatever Terra you have on the Houndour, you might be able to set up 1 or 2 versus it. The Tentacool you might be able to set up versus as well. And especially if you're on Eviolite, you should be in a good spot for that. I could also see you wanting to run something like Clear Amulet, since they do have multiple Intimidate users in the Sandile and the Snubble. Just, seeing what you want to do. I think both of those items can be really solid here. And a way that Tom's really gonna have to break the game open also helps not get swept by like Scarf Meditite or anything like that. I also think Litten is really important. Your Terra options are a little bit limited. You would love to run Terra Fire and just like blow through this team. Maybe not the Tentacool as well, but they do have Flash Power Flash Fire on the Houndour, which makes it a little bit tougher for you. It definitely makes the matchup a lot more annoying that they do have that fire immunity right there. But I think, you know, you have a lot of different options in this game, what you want to go for. Maybe like something like Terra Ground. It deals with the Tentacool, and it deals with, it's really just there for the Tentacool sort of stuff. If you want to do it something like that, I think the Litten can be very strong in this game. You really just have to put it in the right opportunity. But what a lot of these guys have in common is they can't deal with the sticky webs. They're on Lux's side with that Surskit. So you have to bring one of your spinners, or you have to bring your spinner in Bergmite, or you just have to run a lot of boots sort of stuff. I think Litten could run boots and be solid in this game. Or you just have to not let them get up the hazards in general. You do have stuff like Taunt Misdreavus. I think you have Taunt Mankey as well. You don't have great ways to just like remove the Surskit on turn 1. You actually don't really have a way to do it at all, especially if they're like Focus Sash or something like that. So it's going to be a little bit tough for you to be able to deal with it in that way. So I think you bring your spinner in Bergmite, which is actually like not terrible in the matchup as well. You need something that's going to take a hit or two from the Doduo and kind of just, you know, revenge it. Especially if they do bring the Snover on Lux's side, you can get that defense boost and be in a little bit of a better shape. But yeah, I don't love this matchup for Tom. I do think that they have a lot of great options into the matchup. They have a lot of really nice bulky offensive Pokemon, but I think they're going to have to spin it a lot more with that fast offense to be able to outpace something like Lux's team. Now, looking at Lux's team, I know we referred to it a little bit, you know, throughout the time talking about Tom's, but let's talk about the Meditite. Just a very scary Pokemon, huge power, or I guess it's pure power. It's the same thing. Double your attack stat, just goes absolutely insane. It has a 16 speed tier, which outruns actually like over half of Tom's team, which is really nice. You're outrun by Misdreavus, you're outrun by Mankey, you're outrun by Litten, and you're outrun by Fido. Fido is the one that is really scary. Misdreavus, you have other answers for. The other two Pokemon, maybe. But I could see like a Choice Scarf variant on this guy. You know, makes a lot of sense. You outrun everything on their team unless they're running Choice Scarfers, which is, I think Tom is probably forced to run a Choice Scarfer on one of those faster Pokemon for sure. But yeah, you can even get away with going Adamant on this Meditite and still hitting the same speed tiers because of a huge gap between their 14 and 17 on Tom's side with those speed tiers. So Adamant Meditite looks really, really strong here. It just clicks buttons, really. Close combat, Zen Headbutt, really whatever you want to click. There's no resist for all of that. I don't think Grimer can switch in at all. I don't think anything on their squad can switch in, so they have to deal with it more offensively, which is very, very scary, especially when you don't have all that much priority. Now you do have a couple things. You have Aqua Jet, Corphish, you have Fake Out on the Galarian Meowth. You have some options, Ice Shard, Fampi, but you know, not the best. I also think that Toedscool is really good, or Tentacool. I have Toedscool on my team. That is my team Pokemon. But it can be really solid here. I think in general, just being able to, you know, switch in to a lot of the threats on Tom's team is really nice. You can threaten any sort of special Litten. They can't really deal with you unless they're Terra Ground or Terra, you know, some sort of Terra to deal with you, but you force that Terra. It's really nice against the Misdreavus. They are going to run some coverage for you, but if you're Eviolite, you should be able to eat the hits decently well and force that thing out. So you're really forcing switches. You can play into this very offensively, where you double out, forcing a switch out of Misdreavus into something like a Grimer. Try to really punish it. You can get your Sandile in for free, your Doduo in for free, or your Meditite in for free, which I think are your most important Pokemon in this matchup. Talking about that Sandile, very, very good as a Choice Scarfer here. Once you get rid of Misdreavus, or once you get rid of the Grimer, you can lock into your move. If Misdreavus is gone, you just lock into a ground move, and it's really free. They do have the Turtwig on the, you know, on Tom's side that you do have to be a little bit scared of because of Shell Smash opportunity. But besides that, you're pretty solid. If the Grimer is gone, you just lock in like your Crunch or whatever. They do have a Mankey. You have to worry about it just a little bit, maybe the Fido as well, but it's not going to want to take that damage over and over, especially if you end up getting Moxie Boost or, you know, anything like that ends up happening. Same thing with Doduo, except for there's actually just no switch in besides the Galarian Meowth. With an Eviolite, you have to be very, very max at bulk to not get like 3 KO'd by Brave Bird. So if you end up getting any chip damage on that thing, you end up getting any sort of hazards up, which I don't think is your priority in this game besides sticky webs, But anything like that, you're just destroying their entire team. So I think it's really important to just spam Braybird with that guy. You go like Skyplate, or you go Life Orb, you go whatever you really want on that guy, and you should be able to do a ton of damage. You do have low kick, but it doesn't do as much as a little cat. It's 20 base power, so it's not gonna do too much. You don't have drill run like a Dodrio would, so that's a little bit unfortunate. Another Pokemon on Lux's team that I think is really good, Surskit. Webs are really nice here because you are being forced to run Choice Scarfs on Tom's side. You are forcing that, and it just has to happen so you don't get destroyed by Choice Scarf on the Meditite. So you don't get destroyed by regular Meditite. So you don't get destroyed by regular Sandile, Choice Scarf Sandile. So you don't get destroyed by Duo. So you don't get destroyed by anything on that squad. You have to run Choice Scarfs. So getting those webs up is gonna be really nice. They're not gonna be able to run boots and scarfs to be able to outrun everything. I just think that you're overpowering that a little bit too much with the Surskit. I think in this game, you can go Focus Sash if you want. If you want to be a little bit more bold, you might go Mental Herb. If you're gonna lead it, I think Mental Herb might be just a little bit of a better option because there's nothing on Tom's team that can like break your Focus Sash and then kill you without getting those webs up. So I think maybe Mental Herb is the item of choice here. We'll see what Lux ends up going with in their actual game. Another Pokemon that's great is the Houndour. I mean, this Pokemon's been great as a Terra Captain this season. Not like the tippity top of the board like Totodile or anything like that, but it's been pretty solid. Having some really good weeks. I think it had a 6-0 earlier on in the season, and I think it can recreate some of that magic again here today. Just puts on so much offensive pressure versus Tom's side. They don't have any good like fire switch-ins really. They have the Litten, which potentially is going to tear it out. I don't think it should be Terra Fire in this matchup. It just does not hit the Houndour anyways. And then the Corphish, which once you get some damage on that, once you make sure you're getting rid of that Aqua Jet on their side, you're in a solid position. You can also just tear your Houndour so you're not weak to any of that stuff. Like go Terra Grass, and then you're going to be able to threaten that Pokemon. You're going to be able to threaten the Phanpy with super effective damage, which I think is really really valuable in this game as well. Obviously Lux can use some of the other Pokemon on their team, but I think the 6 that I highlighted are the 6 that they should bring. And I think that offensively, they just put on a little bit too much pressure for Tom to be able to play. I think the first 2 turns are going to be super important. And obviously in draft, the first turns are super important in general, but like the first 1 or 2 turns, if you get sticky webs up for free on Lux's side, if you're going to be able to get a free early kill or free early damage with something like a Meditite, with a Doduo, with a Houndour, is Tom going to be able to respond to that? Are they going to have enough tools to be able to respond to that and actually take home a win afterwards? I don't think so. I think Lux is going to narrowly take this one. I think it's going to be a pretty close match. I just think that Lux is going to get out ahead early, and Tom's going to try to claw it back, but I think Lux is just just has the better matchup here. I haven't always loved their matchup spreads, but yeah, I think they have a really good one into Tom. So hopefully we don't see Tom's season go down after going 7-1 plus 17, but we might see it in the first round against Lux. Next up on our docket is the number 2 seed Jamal, who I think I just said they were number 3, but they're number 2 for sure. They're 6-2 plus 14, had a fantastic season. Great way to close the season against Lux, a huge win there. But did end up losing to Tom. So, not crazy amount of momentum going into this. And we've got Cart, who equally does not have very much momentum. They just got destroyed by Adam Appratter, who took over Pyro's team. But Cart has a very scary stuff. I don't think this matchup was a great choice for Jamal. He really wanted this, so maybe he's seeing some line that I don't. But I think Jamal has a really, really tough time. I'm going to go over Cart's team first, just because I think he has such an advantage here. I think Sableye does everything for Cart in this game. I could see this game being a 6-0 for Cart. I really could. More likely like a 5-0 or something like that, because I can see Cart, you sack your Grookey in front of the physical defensive Growlithe. Then you go Sableye and you click bulk up 6 times and you recover and you Will-O-Wisp their attackers, and then you click knock off and you just sweep through their entire team. Jamal has like all physical attackers besides Slowpoke, which is just slow in general, so you don't have to worry about that. Nosepass is also really slow. I guess that is mostly a physical attacker, but the Zora is really like one fast special attacker, the one special attacker in general on this team, that you have to put some investment for. But besides that, you just run bulk up, or I could see you running like Calm Mind plus Will-O-Wisp being solid, but then you have to base on you can't miss your Will-O-Wisp, so you have to play a little bit safer. I think like bulk up gives them an easy opportunity to set up versus a lot of stuff on their team. You set up very easily against APOM. You let APOM knock out something on your team, Fury Swipes plus Fake Out, all that sort of stuff is really strong into Cart's team. But you let it take something out with that, you go Sableye and you click bulk up, and you're in a really, really solid spot there. So I think, Sableye is just going to do the most work in this game. I do think you have a lot of other options. Grookey just being on this team really forces a defensive Terra type out of the Totodile. Normally, I mean, Totodile, it loves a lot of different Terra types, but it has to be something that's not weak to grass, because you would hate to just get destroyed by a Grassy Glide late in the game. When you're trying to set up and sweep, do anything like that. See Terra Fire. It's pretty nice to be able to like revenge kill that Grookey, anything like that. There are some other options. Not like a lot of stuff that's straight up popping into my head. Maybe something like Terra Dragon to just catch all, try to resist stuff from like Numel, Piplup, everything on their squad a little bit better. I could see something like that. I think it does force that defensive Terra very strongly. I think Cart has a lot of other options as well. Really setup oriented with like Numel, you can go for Flame Charge plus Stockpile sort of stuff. You can go for Curse, which is really good too. I think Curse is probably my favorite. You don't like, I mean, they do have a very slow Slowpoke that they might want to bring to the game. As one of their water types, they have the Totodile as well. The Totodile specifically is very physically defensive. If you get that +2 boost with an Eviolite on top of that, you might be able to live any one hit, be able to take advantage of that. You also have the Strudel, who can click Swords Dance after, getting a Grassy Seed boost from the Grookey's Grassy Surge. You get that extra HP as well, but the Grassy Seed gives you +1 defense, which is really strong into the very, very physically offensive team that Jamal has here. So I think any of these setup options are really, really strong here. You have other options down the board. I think that Riolu is actually quite solid in this game. I think you can see like a more defensive Eviolite sort of set. Inner Focus means that you can't get flinched by APOM's Fake Out. And then you can click Close Combat and destroy them. You can also just go for like Nasty Plot plus Vacuum Wave, which I think is really, really strong in a Jamal's team. Just some great priority there. Obviously does get beat by the Zora, which is one of the biggest threats from Jamal's team. So you do have to be a little bit worried about that. You have some good defensive Pokemon on your side, but unfortunately like Shieldon, it does not deal with APOM at all. I mean, you just get low kick. Fake Out plus low kick is a kill a lot of the time. I mean, really depending on the set, but after any chip, it's a kill. So you have a really hard time doing that. Obviously, we talked about the Numel a little bit, but they do have 2 water types on Jamal's team, one of them being special, so it's going to be hard to deal with that. It's just hard to switch it into a lot of stuff that Jamal has on their side. So it really will be a streaky game here. I think if Cart ends up being able to get that setup opportunity with the Sableye, most likely, maybe with the Strudel, maybe with the Numel, they can really, really do it in this game. It is going to be a tough one for sure. If I had to pick out a 5, I think those top 4 for sure. And then I think the bottom 2, I think Riolu, like I said, is really good. And then Starly is great as a choice scarfer here. Just clicks Brave Bird versus the whole team, kind of blows right through everything except for the nose pass. I mean, you can U-turn on that if you do expect it to come. I'm not sure if it will. I mean, it might, but if you bring stuff like Riolu plus Grookey, any opportunity like that, I mean, you can also get, sack off your Starly, get an opportunity to set up. So that's kind of the game that we're playing here on Cart's side. Going back over to Jamal, like I said, the APOM is really good into everything not named Sableye. It's great into everything else. Everything else just basically drops to a Fury Swipes, Fake Out, knockoff sort of stuff. If you are scared about Terra Ghost on Joltik, whatever you're scared of, but they don't have like a Play Rough. They don't have a move to hit Sableye. You might want to run T-Wave for that scenario. You might want to run like Switcheroo. You can give them something interesting like a Choice Scarf, which really shut down what that Sableye wants to do. You have to get really creative with your set here, and I don't think it's going to be super easy for you to do that. You do have a lot of great physical offense here. I talked about how that can be used against him, but it's also really strong just to overwhelm Cart's team. Obviously, Drillbur is not going to be the best in this game when you're facing off against grassy terrain. It's a little bit tough because your Earthquakes don't do so much. You have to resort for other lower base power ground moves. I don't think that Pokemon wants to come in this game. I think Growlithe can be really, really strong though. You might rely on like a Numel to deal with that or anything like that. But it's a great defensive Pokemon in general for the Grookey, which is great for you, but can also hit crazy hard. We've seen me use Growlithe, the Hisuian version, who does have Head Smash, which is a little bit stronger. But Flare Blitz is also really strong here, and everything besides the Numel. I think like Choice Banded can be a really solid option here. I also think Totodile, great. Life Orb, Sheer Force, you're going to be doing a ton of damage to this team. If you really want to win this game, I feel like you kind of are forced to go Terra Fairy. If you want to win it like that offensively, you cannot let the Sableye just set up and win. If they're bulk up variants, then you go out to your Totodile, you Terra Fairy, you get off a lot of damage, stuff that they cannot win in that position if you're able to do that. There are other scenarios. Maybe you run this thing specially to try to hit around like the bulk up or the Will-O-Wisp that we can see from the Sableye. I think those could be really fun sets. You could also see something really outside the box. Instead of a Dragon Dance Sweeper, you could see a lot of really fun stuff. You're gonna have to deal with Sableye one way or another. So either Terra Fairy, you can run, any sort of cool set. If they're not bulk up, you might be able to beat them just being like Dragon Dance physical. Especially if you're like, you could be Terra Fire, try to dodge a Will-O-Wisp, something like that. So it could happen, it might not. I also think Crabrawler is very good here. Obviously into everything except for the Sableye. You can knock it off on the switch in, get rid of like a berry or something like that. Anything that it might want to have, maybe like a Key Berry or a Moringa Berry could be really solid on the Sableye's part to get that extra stat boost. But into the rest of the team, it's very free to click attacks. You have a 17 speed tier, which is faster than everything on Kart's team, except for the Shroodle, which is a little bit faster, and speed ties with the Joltik and with the Grookey. Grookey probably won't run max speed in this game because it has Grassy Glide. You can just click like Drain Punch versus that guy. Click a lot of really strong Iron Fist boosted punching moves. They're really great here. You have stuff like Ice Punch to deal with the birds. You have a lot of coverage just to deal with everything. I think Crabrawler is going to be really great here. Jamal has said that they haven't liked it this season. They haven't been able to use it. It's a fraud. I think it's going to be great in this matchup. So I think, those top four, you're excluding Drillbur. I think those are kind of, they kind of have to come into this game. I think the Hisuian Zora is really good as well. If you're going to want to overwhelm the Sableye, you run Specs Zora and you just click Shadow Ball. Specs is a little bit scary because if you spec into Shadow Ball, then you can't hit the Starly, which I think is really good in this game. You can't hit the Shroodle as well, which is good. If you specs into Hyper Voice, then you can't hit the Sableye, and that's a terrible opportunity. So maybe something like Life Orb could also be really solid in this game, but the extra damage might go the mile in this game. You really need to get all that damage you can on the Sableye because it's going to blow you away if you don't do that. I also think that the Slowpoke could come if you're super worried about something like the Numel. You can't really set up too far away to beat you. It has stuff like Trailblaze, but it's not going to do too much. And if they want to be like a Curse variant to try to boost their attack, then you're going to be faster than them after one. I do think that it can be nice to, T-Wave the Sableye. Spam Thunder Wave, honestly, is very good versus their team. You also just have great coverage in general. Ice Beam hits the Noibat and the Grookey and the Starly. Hits a lot of stuff. You have Psychic for the Riolu and the Shroodle. You have stuff like Flamethrower, Joltik, Grookey. Hits all that. Thunderbolt for the Piplup, for the birds again. So a really solid, set of coverage moves for that Pokemon, which is why I think that it cements itself as the 6th in this spot. Just being more defensive, being like an Eviolite user, so you can pivot into stuff, can be really solid. You might want to run one of these Pokemon as like a Focus Sash, something like that, just so you're able to get some extra damage off, just so you don't get swept by something super easily. Obviously, it's going to be hard to not get swept by a Sableye, which can Prankster recover its way back up, so you can't really like outspeed it for any of that sort of stuff. But it's your best bet. I really don't know what Jamal is going for when they see this matchup. Maybe they're going to spike stack with Cacnea and go Nose Pass and set up Stealth Rocks, something like that. Since we don't have the best hazard control options on Kart's side, maybe something like that. Try to eliminate the HP off that Sableye as early as possible. I could see it being another valid strategy in this game, but I really think I'm gonna have to give this one to Kart. That Sableye just does way too much, and I know I've been glazing the Sableye for the past 11 minutes talking about this matchup, but I think there's just really not much Jamal can do if Kart gets it going. If Jamal gets a Dragon Dance up early, if they get like some really strong early momentum, I think it's going to be hard for Kart to bring it back, but I do think they always have the opportunity when they have that Sableye when they had the Strudel plus Grookey, when they had the Numel in the back in this game. So I think I'm going to give this one to Cart, and we'll see if they're going to move on. I mean, had a great season last season, going 8-0, and then fizzled out in the first round of the playoffs. So hopefully that's not going to happen again, but we'll see, and only time will tell. Next up, we have the 3 versus 8 matchup. Tataz 6-2 plus 12 picked Frisian to play against. I think this is a very scary matchup. Frizz is the only person that beat Tom, the #1 seed. So you got to give them credit for that. And they've had a really strong end of the season to make a push into the playoffs after taking over Bio's team. Tataz has obviously been great all season. Have a lot of really good wins. They beat me earlier in the season, although that was a little bit of a fluke, but you know, it is what it is. So they've been having a really good season. A couple of, you know, small losses, lost to Tom. I don't remember who else they lost to, but they have a strong title hopes here for sure. So looking at Tataz's team in this matchup, I think you really have to talk about coughing. It looks so good into this matchup. I think neutralizing gas is what you really have to run with. Neutralizing gas gets rid of the arena trap on Trapinch, so you can't get trapped by that at all. You can always switch out. It gets rid of the guts on a potential Larvitar, that one. It gets rid of guts on that, so you can't run like Flame Orb, Toxic Orb sort of stuff and get extra damage. It gets rid of the Contrary on Inkay, which I think is really, really solid here. It gets rid of a lot of that stuff. Even like the Hustle on Delibird makes it easier to switch into those moves. So the neutralizing gas is really, really strong there. I think that's what you run most of the time in this matchup. If you really want to run a flying type to be able to switch into that Trapinch, you have Drifloon, which I think is great in the matchup as well. Obviously not the best into a couple of Pokemon on their team, that Delibird being their Uber, the Larvitar as well. Not great into those things, but a couple of other Pokemon on the squad, like, I mean, you're able to spam Shadow Balls pretty decently well versus Frizz's team here. Besides the Teddy Ursa, I mean, they don't take it too hot. You have plenty of other options, like some sort of setup stuff, which I think could be really good in this matchup. Another Pokemon Tataz's team that I think is imperative to this game is the Chinchou. It's just so good. There's a potential we see Scarf, which makes a lot of sense if you want to be able to outrun like the Delibird and stuff, but I think it's more likely that we just see like an Eviolite variant or some sort of offensive item. We might see like, you know, Mystic Water sort of stuff. But you have the electric moves that destroy the Delibird, you destroy the Marini, which your team actually has a really hard time dealing with. And then being able to flip turn out, being faster than Trapinch, even if the Trapinch was Choice Scarf, you're always faster than that thing if you run max speed Timid. So you're great there. And you shut down the Voltorb on Frisian's side, basically making it unplayable unless you have some specific heat on that, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But having Volt Absorb, I mean, makes it really easy to be able to switch into that Pokemon. It's just great in the matchup. You're going to be able to heal yourself up, do a lot of damage, get a lot of pivoting done. And I think it's going to be really important to have the Chinchou here. The Mastiff is also really good. Tataz has been loving using this guy. I think he's 10-2 with the Mastiff throughout this entire season. I think most of the time we've seen like Choice Scarf Mastiff throughout a lot of these games, and it cleans up late game. Tataz has a really, really good idea of what it can and can't do. That Mastiff in the back. I don't exactly know what kind of Terra we'll see in this game. I could see, I mean, I don't even know. What are we going to see? Maybe something that helps hit the Marini a little bit harder if you're a little bit worried about that. Maybe something to be able to resist an Ice Shard from Delibird, so you're not going to have to worry about that. Maybe resist the first impression on Trapinch as well, because you are worried about a little bit of that priority on their side if you're going to be sweeping with the Choice Scarf. But I think it does force a lot of prep from Frizz's side. We do see a lot of Choice Scarf from Tataz on that Pokemon, so I think it's something that we can call out and hopefully be able to take advantage of on Frisian's side. So I definitely think those four are coming. Stantler probably comes to this game as well. It just makes a lot of sense, being really strong in general. I think we probably see a more physically oriented set this week. So we can click like Earthquake into the Marini. It's just very, very strong in that regards. And you can click stuff like Body Slam, which is just very annoying for Frizz's team to switch into. They do have the Sinistea, but that's not too big of a threat. Neolil and Geodude gets destroyed by an Earthquake anyway. So I think you have a lot of great coverage on that side. You're faster than most of the team besides the Voltorb. And obviously besides any Scarfers or anything like that. So you're really nice in general. You also have Intimidate, which I think you have to run. It helps you deal, like, you can Intimidate Cycle out against the Larvitar if you don't have your neutralizing gas still around. You can Intimidate Cycle versus like the Delibird or the Trapinch, that sort of stuff. You know, if you need to in the game. You do have to be a little bit careful about the Contrary Inkay, which I think is really solid in the match. Other stuff on Taytaz's side, I think Citadel can be really solid here. Seen it used a decent amount, having some really nice, strong priority and some good coverage. I think it has like Stomping Tantrum. I don't think it has Earthquake for the Marini, but Stomping Tantrum, something like that, can hit it pretty hard, or any other coverage that it might have for it. I also think Hatena is solid here if you're worried about Spike Stack. Well, not really Spike Stack, but rocks. I guess we could be worried about Toxic Spikes if we get rid of that Coughing, or if we see it's not there, or if it's Levitate. Then Toxic Spikes actually look really strong from Fizz's side. So if you want to make sure that that's not going to happen, you bounce him back. You also threaten a couple Pokemon on Frizz's team decently well. You threaten a lot of stuff with Nuzzle, which is really, really nice. And then the Psychic moves actually hit very, very strong. So I think we're going to see some combination of those. I wouldn't be super surprised if we see a Fuecoco just to deal with something like Inkay. It can also deal with the Larvesta decently well, which I think is a huge threat against Taytaz's team. So if they do want to bring that, I definitely could see that happening. Dratini, Dragon and Sweeper, so it definitely could happen, but I don't see it with you know, Ice Shard Delibird being right there. And Chikorita, I also don't see it with a Delibird, you know, into that matchup. It's just a little bit terrible. But we could see like screen sort of stuff. I think that could be solid for Taytaz's side. But honestly, I mean, they have a lot of options for a lot of the sets that they might want to run. I think Frizz, they definitely have a hard matchup, but they have all the tools that they need to be able to break this thing wide open. I'm going to start first about Voltorb. This Pokemon's faster than everything on Taytaz's side. If you go, you know, plus speed nature, even if you don't, then you're only speed tying with the Stantler at the very worst. Does get shut down by the Chinchou, but I think normal gem explosion, Adamant to Voltorb, it looks insane here. What's the switch in on Taytaz's side to Voltorb? It's obviously going to be that Chinchou. If you catch it, you can, you know, normal gem boom all over them. You're going to be doing like 80, 90, 100% depending on their investment, and that's based off of an Eviolite version of Chinchou, which is great. With no bulk on your Voltorb, you always live a modest hit in case that Chinchou is Choice Scarf. You always live like the Hydro Pump or whatever. So you're in a pretty good position that way. If you need to get some extra damage, you have stuff like the Foul Play, if you need to hit it like that. But then, you know, once the Chinchou is gone, you really just spam like Volt Switch. You spam those electric moves into Taytaz's team. So I could really see a fun set, maybe like a minus defense, hasty sort of thing, or what? It's not opposite of bold. Plus attack, I think it's lonely. Plus attack minus defense, some sort of stuff. And you have the opportunity to boom if you want. But if that Chinchou is already out of the way, then you can Volt Switch around. You can still be really, really annoying in this game. So I think that's one of the Pokemon that I would definitely bring. A little bit heat and, you know, maybe something that Frizz won't see. I also think, you know, your top two Pokemon are really good. Your Delibird, maybe bring Hustle. It depends on what you really want to do. You're not too worried about sleep, although like you can see Hypnosis, Stantler. I don't think you need Vital Spirit. But the Hustle, it does get a little bit scary. You can't click Triple Axle at all. I mean, you're going to miss them for sure. You have stuff like Ice Spinner, Aerial Ace, which never misses, which is really nice. You also have Drill Run, which hits very, very hard into the Fuecoco and the Chinchou, which you outspeed both of them. So you have the opportunity to do that. With Hustle boosted, those do an absolute ton of damage. I think you run like a Life Orb on this Pokemon. I think makes the most sense. Just try to get all the damage off as possible. You could run something like a Clear Amulet to get away from the Intimidate from Stantler. I see that being a solid option. I can see Focus Sash being solid, so you can always eat at least one hit from their side. You know, I can see a plethora of different things. I think those are the most common items I would see. Life Orb, Sash, and Clear Amulet on that Pokemon. But it's really strong and can definitely break the game wide open. I think like late game Brave Birds look really, really insane, especially if the Chinchou is gone. There's just zero switch into that Pokemon. Trapinch is also good. I mean, it just puts on a lot of, you know, a lot of threat onto Taytaz's team. It really depends on what they bring. If you're bringing like Shed Shells and everything like that, and you have the Drifloon that you can switch into, then maybe it's not the best in this matchup, but it still forces a lot of stuff. You have the priority with the First Impression that can be really, really nice in the matchup. You're also like solidly bulky and just strong in general. If you want run an Eviolite on this Pokemon, you should be able to eat any one hit from like the Stantler, be able to do a ton of damage back with an Earthquake. So you have that sort of option. You also can just scout like Stealth Rocks. I think Stealth Rocks look very, very fine versus Taytaz's team. Can confirm the damage for like a Voltorb Boom to kill Chin Chao. It can confirm damage on basically everything on their team. And the Hatena really does not want to switch in on an Earthquake from this Pokemon. So I could see you getting up your rocks pretty easily with this guy. So it's like a toss-up if you want to bring him. I think it looks pretty solid in the matchup. But who knows what you really want to do if you are Frizz. I think Sinistea does have some niche uses. No Shell Smash, because that's just how it works as a Pokemon. It doesn't learn it. So no Shell Smash is really tough. Can run like Calm Mind sort of stuff. I don't think it's great in this game, but it does have the opportunity to be good. It's a weak armor, so you get your speed boost once you're hit by a physical attack, which is really, really nice if you're ever able to get that up. Can be great. You can also run stuff like Choice Specs, but with a Stantler in the back, it's going to be really hard for you to hit anything like that. So maybe Calm Mind, Stored Power sort of stuff is what I see going for you here. If you want to bring it, you do have the opportunity to, and I think it can be solid. But just a couple Pokemon that's not too great into. Marini, I think, is solid, a Pokemon that you might want to bring for sure. Just a great defensive beast into like the Coughing. You can really stall that thing out. You have Regenerator. Even though they might have Neutralizing Gas, you should be okay. You have Recover sort of stuff. Surf hits very strong when you think about LiliPup. Normally in OU, you're not doing very much with a Toxapex stalling Surf. You know, you're not going to do very much damage. And LiliPup, that is multiplied by like 3 times just because of how the rolls work. You're going to be doing a lot to like an EV like Coughing, so you have a lot of great opportunity there. If the Coughing is gone, you have the potential to set up T-Spikes, which is really, really good. If they're Levitate Coughing, you also can just set it with the T-Spikes, and then you're in a really great position. So I think you have a lot of great opportunity with that Pokemon. I think Larvitar is necessary here. Obviously, they do have a couple Pokemon that can be a little bit worrisome for you. They do have Neutralizing Gas on their Coughing that they can switch into you potentially. Then you can hit them with a really strong ground move, even if you burned yourself with Guts, or if you poisoned yourself, blah, blah, blah. They do have an Unaware Coco as well, which definitely gets hit really hard by the ground type moves. I think Dragon Dance plus Terra Ground is great in this game. Only downside to Terra Ground at all is that the Citadel can hit you very hard with an Ice Shard. I could also see, instead of going Guts, you just go like Clear Amulet on this Pokemon. And I mean, you can be Guts if you want, so you can switch into the Coughing. You can always take a Will-O-Wisp, anything like that, and then potentially do good later. But if you have Clear Amulet, you don't have to worry about the Stantler, which is really, really nice. And then you get a Dragon Dance up, you're faster than the entire team on Taytaz's side, and you're really able to go ham with potentially Rock Blast, Earthquake. Those are the only 2 moves that you really need into the squad. I think Larvitar is great. We might see another Terra type outside of ground, but I think that's the one that I would bring into this game. It seems the most telegraphed and the best into the entire squad. And then the last Pokemon I think you absolutely need on your team is Larvesta. Larvesta looks actually insane. The only Pokemon it doesn't beat is Fuecoco. Everything else on Taytaz's squad, it actually just 1v1s. It has, I think you run Morning Sun, you run Giga Drain, you run Flamethrower, and you run like Flame Charge. You get that speed boost, which means if you're running max speed, you're going to be faster than the Scarf Mastiff, so you don't have to worry about that Pokemon. They don't have any great rock moves to hit you with anyways on their team, so you don't have to worry about your 4x weakness. They don't have strong flying type moves, except for potentially Drifloon, which you can hit pretty hard anyways. Don't have to worry about that if you're running Eviolite and you're a very bulky Pokemon in general. I mean, they're not hitting you super effective with barely anything on their squad. You get that speed boost and you're just able to go ham. With an Eviolite, you're super bulky still, like I've said. So I think it looks really great in this matchup. I would be very surprised to not see Frizz bring it. I think if Frizz brings it, they have a very good shot to win this game, especially if there's no Fuecoco, which I don't think looks the best on Taytaz's side. But we'll see if they spot the Larvesta, then they might have to bring it. I think Frizz definitely should bring that. Another Pokemon that's definitely in the mix, I think, is Inkay. Running Scarf Superpower with Contrary looks really strong. It's a thing that forces either Unaware or Neutralizing Gas out of Taytaz's side, but still just looks really strong in general. Clicking Scarf Knockoff also looks great because of those normal switch-ins. The Unaware Pokemon, the Neutralizing Gas Pokemon that really want to rock an Eviolite, you knock that off, and then you're in a really good position to be able to destroy them throughout the rest of the game. So I think Inkay is going to be really fun here if they bring it. I do think they should. They have the potential not to, I also think like Teddy Ursa can be really solid on the squad as well. Maybe not as good as the other ones, but like something like Quick Feet with another orb, you get, you know, very fast with this Pokemon, and you're able to do a lot of damage throughout the entire team. I see the Alolan Geodude, which I think is a really strong, like sturdy lead. If you want to get your rocks up, you can do that. You can also just click like boom if you want. You can run Galvanize if you want to like click a boom, but I wouldn't recommend it into the Volt Absorbing Chinchou. I just run Sturdy, and you can run boom just like you would on the Voltorb, and really just trade 1-for-1 with something off the bat, since they're obviously not going to be in with a Drifloon. I think you have a real ton of options on Frisionn's side. You have to find the perfect 6 here to win the game, and it's really hard to say what those 6 are. I think it's probably Delibird, Larvesta, and Larvitar for sure. I think you have the potential with Inkay, Voltorb. You can run it with Trapinch. You can run it with the Alolan Geodude. I think, you know, you don't have a bad Mon in the matchup. Sinistea is maybe your worst Mon, but it still has a lot of hope here. I think that Frisionna definitely could do it. Will I give it to Frisionna to actually make the comeback here? I don't think so. I think that Taytaz is going to be able to pull it through. I think their team is just really strong. And, you know, Frizz is going to have to do some crazy stuff. And I just don't know if I believe in them to actually be able to do that. I know. I'm sorry, Frizz. You've been a great guy having the league. But I'm just not sure that you can actually break through all that Taytaz has to offer here. Taytaz looked great all season, and I'm not going to start betting against them now. And last but certainly not least is our 4-seed matchup. I am taking on Appratter, the 7 seed, who went 4-4+0 after taking over Pyro's crazy team late in the season. Honestly, they have a really scary squad. Marill is just absolutely disgusting. That Pokemon has huge power, so you have to be worried about that. His stats aren't too good besides that. I mean, it has like a decent HP stat, I'm pretty sure. But, you know, huge power off of even 20 attack is still scary to see. And, I mean, that's not the only thing that's super scary on their team. So I'm really going to have to dial it in. I'm recording this about 40 minutes before we battle. And I have a really fun, really heat team. I'll talk maybe about a couple of the tactics that I thought about going into this battle. But let's look at Appratter's team first. I already talked about Marill a little bit. Huge power is crazy. With the Aqua Jet is really strong into my team. I don't have a Pokemon that can consistently switch into Aqua Jet plus Play Rough. Obviously, Play Rough isn't like the most consistent. 90% is not the best, but it's still very scary. I think we probably don't see Choice Band, since I do have like Storm Drain and Water Absorb on 2 of my Pokemon. I don't think it makes very much sense for them to do that. I think we are, you know, much more likely to see either just like a straight up attacker, maybe Life Orb sort of stuff, or we see Belly Drum, which I think is going to be the most common in this game, because 1 Belly Drum goes up and they have a really easy time winning this game, actually. It just makes it incredibly tough for me to do anything. I can't run Eviolite or anything like that, which is really nice, but with an Oranberry proc, it just gives me a pain for sure. It's going to be really, really tough. Next up on their team, they have a Yanma, which looking into this matchup, I didn't think it was like too crazy. I do think it probably comes, but not like one of the biggest threats. It doesn't have like the greatest stabs into my team. I mean, they're fine. They hit me pretty solidly. I don't mind their speed at all. It's not too big of a deal because this Pokemon just doesn't have as much power as a lot of the other stuff on their team. But you know, if they end up getting like an Ancient Power boost or something like that, it's a little bit scary. They probably will run that since I do have the Growlithe. And then on top of that, they have stuff like Giga Drain, which hits Shellos, Bug Buzz, Air Slash sort of stuff, which hits most of my team like very, very strong. I do have, you know, Pokemon that can beat it for sure, but I mean, it will be a tough one. They have a Scorbunny, which I think is a huge problem for my team. I don't really switch into it too well, especially with the team that I'm bringing. Not bringing an Eviolite Shellos, so we're going to have a hard time switching into Flare Blitzes. Luckily, no Pyro Ball, so don't have to worry about like no drawback clicks from them. I guess like 90% would be a drawback anyways. But you know, the recoil is actually very important in this game when I do have some great priority with Meowth, and Click Fake Out plus Feint is really, really strong here. So yeah, it's going to be a scary Pokemon. Also has stuff like Sucker Punch, U-Turn, which is going to make it really annoying for me to deal with. Hopefully I'm going to be able to, but we'll see what happens. They have an Alolan Sandshrew, which is a strong defensive typing into a lot of Pokemon on my team. Meowth doesn't get a fire or fighting move. Its best actual move to hit it is like Power Dig, really. So it's a great switch into that. I think they're going to bring it just as a Pokemon that can switch into this Meowth, which is tough when Meowth is my best way to revenge kill a lot of stuff on Appratter's team. But you know, a lot of other Pokemon on my squad do have the means to beat it. Obviously, I have a Growlithe that destroys it. I have a Toedscool. Even though I'm 4 times weak, I am very, very strong clicking Earth Power into that Pokemon. And then Volbeat does get Brick Break, which I'm bringing this week, which I think is going to be really strong into that guy. Hopefully, I can catch them off guard and I'll be able to take them out in one shot. They also have a Gibble, which is super scary with, you know, Sword Stance plus Scale Shot sort of stuff. Loaded Dice can be really, really strong. I was surprised to not see them make this their Terra Captain. Very happy for this game because that makes it way easier for me. They can also run more defensive. Spikes plus Stealth Rocks plus Rocky Helmet plus Rough Skin is really tough for me to deal with. I do have a nice spinner with Toedscool on my side, but it's not the best into this matchup. And then, you know, my priority is Fake Out from Meowth, which is taking Life Orb damage. It's frail in general. Taking an extra third every single time I accidentally click that into the Gibble is going to be really tough. So I definitely think we're going to see that Pokemon come in this game. I think the Galarian Slowpoke, although it is their mascot, I don't think it's the best in this game at all. I think, you know, Dewpider is a very good bring into their team, and I think it absolutely destroys them. I think Gimmighoul is a great bring as well into this team, and it absolutely destroys it. They do have a ton of great coverage options for sure. And this Pokemon is only Psychic, not Poison, so, which makes my Volbeat great into it as well. So they do have, you know, some potential with this guy, but I don't know. I don't know what we see. Potentially they can bring like Flamethrower, Ice Beam, Thunder Wave sort of stuff, which is going to really screw me up if they do bring it. I'm just going to have to, you know, see what their team is going to be like. They can't run a million Eviolites. They can only run 2. So, I mean, we can get that figured out right away and see if this Pokemon's going to come and if it's going to really do all the annoying stuff. I think it could. Their Terra Captain is Croagunk, which I think is insane in this matchup. It's really strong on the physical side, specifically versus me. They just click really strong buttons. I think Terra Dark is the only Terra that makes sense. Terra Dark, like knockoff or whatever, Terra Blast, if that's what their best move into me, is just really, really strong. It's hard for me to switch into that at all. I really just don't have a switch in. I wish I had like a really strong fighting type when fighting types are the like best in Little Cup, but I don't. And I also think it's really nice for them to be able to avoid the Gothita trapping them by going Terra Dark. They have a really strong Sucker Punch in that scenario, so they don't get revenged by all my Scarfers that I could potentially have. And they also have Dry Skin, so I have 2. I have 3 water types, so Magikarp doesn't count. I basically have 2 water types on my team, which are both coming into the game. That, you know, I can't click a water move or else I'm going to heal them up, so it's a little bit tough what I'm going to have to do into that Pokemon. They also have a Poltergeist. I think it's a solid Pokemon. Maybe not the best in this matchup. They have a lot of other stuff that's really, really good here in general. But you can see it as like a Trick Room Pokemon or just like spread around status and be really annoying. Or like, you know, Specs Leaf Storm actually could be strong versus me because I have to pick and choose when I'm going to switch in. They also have a Deerling, which I think is really good. 18 speed tier, outruns a lot of stuff on my team. We have a lot of really fast stuff. You know, 3 Pokemon that either tie or outspeed, which is really nice. But Serene Grace Headbutt flinching is really annoying, especially if they pass around T-Wave status with, you know, a couple other Pokemon on their squad. It also has just a great offensive move typing into me in general, being able to click stuff like Horn Leech into my Shellos. It's really scary. You have a Bronzong that hopefully should be able to help deal with all of that. The last Pokemon on their squad is a Spoink. I've seen this used in Little Cup before. I honestly don't really know what it does, though. At this point, I don't think it's going to do very much to my squad. It can be scary if they have a lot of coverage, like Shadow Ball sort of stuff hits my Bronzor. It's hard for me to switch in that scenario. I mean, I do have Pokemon that can do it, but, you know, they can put me in a real pinch with a lot of the stuff they have on their squad. Now, let's talk about what I have for them. Obviously, every Pokemon on my team besides Magikarp is really scary for them in this matchup. The Gothita, one Pokemon I'm actually not bringing. You guys will see my whole team when we play, when you see the battle on Friday. But Gothita is Pokemon I'm not bringing because I really expect that Terra Dark. If they don't bring Terra Dark, it's absolutely insane in this game. I think Choice Scarf is best. I mean, just spamming Psychic versus their squad. They do have the potential to resist it with 2 of their Eviolite users in Sandshrew and in the Slowpoke. So we'll see if they end up, you know, falling for that trap or not. If they don't bring Terra Dark, then it's a little bit tough that I didn't bring it, but, you know, we'll see. Another Pokemon I'm not bringing, surprisingly, is the Growlithe here. It does look very, very strong. I think the Gibble's probably going to run physically defensive sort of stuff, and I just thought that there were Pokemon on my team that I needed more than this Growlithe. So let's talk about a couple things that I am bringing in this matchup and that I think look really good in general. I think Dewpider looks great. I mean, being able to get Sticky Webs up versus a lot of Pokemon on their team is really nice. They have to pick and choose what kind of items they're going to bring. Are they going to bring heavy duty boots on stuff like Score Bunny, on stuff like potentially sweeping offensive Gibble. They can run a Choice Scarf on either of those Pokemon. And the Deerling as well, really important. If not, then my entire team outspeeds them and just like one-shots basically everything. Also, with Dewpider, you have a lot of great coverage moves. Normally you run like Liquidation, Leech Life. That's not what I'm running this week. I'm running Bug Buzz, I'm running Hydro Pump, I'm running Ice Beam. So I have the coverage to be able to take on everything on their team. The Sandshrew isn't going to be able to switch in because it can't switch in on the special side. It just has no special bulk. If they want to bring something like the Slowpoke, which does, you know, it is really tough for my team to deal with, I can just destroy it with a Bug Buzz, and they don't have a great switch into that move on their side of the team at all. So I think it's going to be really great in this matchup. I also talked about Meowth being really great with the dual priority moves. I am running a Life Orb set this week that you guys will see. It looks very, very strong. It's my primary way to revenge kill, you know, basically anything on their team. It's great for me to get any sort of damage on their side, especially on that Marill. If they're Belly Drum, I do worry about that, but hopefully we'll be able to take them out. I also am very worried about the Croagunk. They can potentially run Upper Hand sort of stuff. I don't think it gets around Fake Out, but it would get around a Feint, I'm pretty sure. I think, maybe. I think so. So we do have to worry about that a little bit. But, you know, we're going to see what happens there. Another Pokemon I really wanted to bring was the Gimmighoul in this matchup. Without Deerling there, I mean, Choice Specs, Terra Ghost just absolutely tears through the entire team. But when you think about Terra Dark Croagunk, which I think is really going to come, they have great priority with huge power Aqua Jet. They have Ice Shard on Sandshrew. They have Sucker Punch on Score Bunny, and then Terra Dark Sucker Punch on the Croagunk. I think we're going to have a really tough time into that Pokemon. So I decided not to bring it. I will spoil just one piece of heat that I have for you guys today. Bring in Choice Scarf Shellos. You guys are going to see what happens there. Hopefully it'll be able to check their Marill a little bit decent. But yeah, it's a really solid Pokemon offensively into the matchup as well. I also think the Volbeat is really good. I talked with Offline, who was helping me, you know, just look through my build a little bit. He said that, you know, just like Encore T-Wave Prankster stuff is really nice to stop their setup. If I'm worried about Belly Drum, if I'm worried about the Swords Dance Scale Shot, if I'm worried about a bunch of other stuff like that. If I'm not, I can run very physically offensive. I have stuff like Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, Brick Break to be able to hit the Sandshrew, and run U-Turn, which is just really strong versus their squad. So I have a lot of really good options with all this stuff on my squad. I'm going to bet on myself on this one. Hopefully I do end up winning this game. I put a decent amount of time into it, which maybe is a bad thing for me, because usually I don't put that much time into my builders. But this time I really want this. I want the back-to-back cups. We'll see if that happens. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this rendition of draft notes for the LPDL. I am sorry that we didn't have it throughout all of the regular season. I will have it throughout the playoffs, and I hope to have it back again next season, but we'll see, because next season is going to be a lot different. But yeah, if you guys do enjoy, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. See you in the next one. Peace.